Ladies, gentlemen, friends of all ages, you know what time it is. I am Jay, aka the Moderate Texan. It has been way too long. But here I am. I'm back. We're here to chat. We're here to talk. We're here to have a bit of fun. Today, a bit of fun is going to be had. For those who don't know, I was at camp today. Today was the first day of fans in camp. And all I got to say is it was a fun time. We'll talk about that. But first, just like always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. All the information is down below for all of the people who've been on the show before. That includes Matt, Money Matt, that includes Joey, that includes Ryan, that includes Jordan, aka Your Texans Thoughts. All their Twitter info, all their channels, that's all below. You guys also know I've got a podcast as well. The podcast link, which is just this show, honestly. The links are down below. That will take you to either Apple, if you want to go there, Spotify, or Google Podcast, whichever you prefer. Spotify, though, will have the video podcast. As always, what do you guys want me to pray for? If there's anything you guys want me to pray for, go ahead and drop that in the chat. If you guys don't want to put it there, hit me up on whatever social media you got. If you're in the Texans Thoughts Discord, if you've got my Discord as a friend, if you've got my number, if you've got my email, if you've got my Twitter handle, DM me anywhere. All that information is down below. Feel free to take care of that at your leisure. All right. Let's move ahead. Let's get into some good subjects here. So normally I start off, as you guys know, with a thing called the quick side note. A quick side note. Today, the quick side note is going to be about a subject that's near and dear to my heart. It's the sport of soccer or football, depending on what you want to call it. What's up, Eden? Good to see you, my guy. It's been too long since we've had this stream going. So, for those of you who don't know, the Women's World Cup is going on right now. It is a once every 4-year event, and it happens on odd years for some reason. Don't know why we started like that, but hey, it is what it is. This year is the first year that the women have gotten 32 teams together. In the past, it's been only 24. This year, they added 8 teams to the mix. And what I find interesting is that, much like us Americans like to say, USA is number one in the world when it comes to the Women's World Cup. We have the most World Cup championships with 4, the most medals in total by a lot. The next team below us is Germany with 3 total medals, 2 gold and 1 silver. And then after that is Japan with 2, with 1 gold and 1 silver. And then the US has 8 medals total, 4 gold, 1 silver, 3 bronze. That's insane. That's how good the US is. But there's been a discussion for a while about, are the men better? Are the women better? Who should be paid more? Who should be paid less? I'm not going to get into that debate. What I am going to talk about, though, is something that's interesting. What I love about the fact that this Women's World Cup has moved to 32 teams is that now it matches the men in terms of how many teams are playing, how many games are played, so on and so forth. What's also interesting is that this year, 8 teams who had never made it to the World Cup before made it. Those teams are Morocco, Vietnam, Zambia, the Republic of Ireland, Portugal, Philippines, Panama, and Haiti. All of those teams had never played in a World Cup before, and this is their first year. That's phenomenal. Now we get to see other countries who are investing, and that makes the sport grow. I definitely support the Women's World Cup. I want to see more women's sports out there. I think that's phenomenal. It was great to play with women when I did play soccer many years ago. But I also want to see the quality of the women's game go up. And this is how you do it, by adding more teams and getting more awareness out there, making more governments jump in on this. So That is my quick side note. If you're not watching, go watch the Women's World Cup. I have been very disappointed in the U.S. women's national team's play. I think they can be a lot better, and I think they started off real slow, especially not beating Vietnam by more than they did. It was only 3-0, and tying the Netherlands. They should have beat that team. They are far better. Joey, my bros, good to see you, my guy. Good to see you. All right. Let's get beyond a quick side note. Let's get into what I saw in camp today. I'm going to start with the offense. So when I say I'm going to start with the offense, I want people to understand that in camp, there was a lot of running drills, especially at the beginning. Not a lot of throwing. It was more of run, 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 and then maybe there's a deep pass at the end. The offense started today sluggish. I won't lie. Damian Pierce, Devin Singletary, and we'll start. Actually, you know what? I'll start today with the running backs because that's where we started. We started with the run. Damian Pierce, Devin Singletary, and Daria Ngumbawale. Remember those three names because I believe they will be your three running backs. RB1, RB2, and RB3 on the team. They pop off the page. When they're running, you know it's them. Everybody else is good. I'm not saying that that's not the case. The run game is working extremely well, or at least it seems to. We're not getting any hits yet, so they're not really playing in pads. So we're not seeing, those tackles, but it looks like those three players are the ones that are most able to knife through the defense. That's who you should be watching for. Watch for Damian Pierce. We already know what he can do. We know he can just shake tackles. We know he can break them. We know he can just go off for a 75-yarder down the field. We know what Devin Singletary can do. He can catch. He can run. He can get you into the end zone easily. He did it often with the Bills. So we know he can continue to do it here. And he looks like he's still got that speed. He's still got that. It's effortless looking as well. And Daria Ngumbawale, I don't think people got to see as much of him as he should have over the last 2 years. But Daria has been a good running back. And I think he makes his team and kind of fills out that running back room. The fourth player, I don't know if we carry a fourth one or if we go with a fullback or two fullbacks. I don't know how that's going to work, or a fullback and a tight end, or whatever, however we do that. I can tell you though that those three seem to be the leaders. When it comes to wide receivers, I won't lie, there were a lot of drops today. A lot of drops. Now, that doesn't mean that there was a lack of class and a lack of ability in the wide receivers. Really, that kind of goes back to the defense. The defense, especially in the secondary, was smothering. There was a particular pass that I remember. It was the first pass of practice, and it actually came from Davis Mills. It was a pass actually it came from CJ, I believe. It was going out to Noah Brown. Noah Brown was streaking down the sideline, and it was being chased by Stingley. Now, Stingley was beat initially. Noah Brown had at least a step and a half on him. But Stingley caught up, and at the last second, he broke the pass up. And this was on the sideline. Had this been a catch, likely it's going out of bounds. Or if he can stay in bounds, he might pick up 2 or 3 more yards if he could tightrope a little farther. But that secondary was stifling. Yes, Stingley did allow catches on him, and we'll get to that later when we talk about the defense. But that secondary is stifling. There was another pass that happened a little later in camp. We'll talk about CBs later. We'll talk about DBs and defense later because there's a lot I really want to talk about with this. On the other side, there was another throw, and this one was by Davis Mills. It was a deep throw, and honestly, I'll say this. When it came to throwing, it was clear and evident who should be number 1 and number 2. We'll talk about quarterbacks here in a second, but when it came to wide receivers, it didn't matter who it was. Deep balls didn't work, whether it be because of a drop, and sometimes the DBs had a step, or that the wide receivers had a step. And they could have caught it, but they just couldn't wrangle it for whatever reason. Um, there was a lot of drops. There was a lot of smothering coverage, whether that be from Nelson, Shaq Griffin, Stingley, King, Tavier Thomas, Petrie. Ward wasn't practicing, but Eric Murray was out there, and I would have never been able to guess that that was Eric Murray because he was phenomenal. Dude was he wasn't getting beat at all. Petrie was mainly out there by himself. Occasionally, when they had two safety sets, that was going on. But yeah, the secondary was phenomenal. They are stifling. And the wide receivers, you can feel it. There needs to be someone who can get open. So we're not taking check downs to tight ends or streaking Tank Dells every now and again, or a Nico Collins kind of 10 yards down the field on a slant. We need to have someone who can open it up and burn. Right now, I don't know who that is. So yes, the wide receivers definitely need help. I know there's been a lot of chatter about T. Higgins and what's going on with him in Cincinnati. Yes, he might help, or actually, he definitely would help. But what are you going to have to give up for him? Right, that's my question there. On to the tight ends. Honestly, not much to say there. Most of the time when the tight ends were coming towards me, I was blocked by either the entire team who wasn't in at the time, or I was blocked by some unfortunate person who was standing up and taking care of a child or going to get water or whatever situation was happening. So I didn't get to see much of them, but what I did get to see was pretty positive. They were always either open or able to take care of the ball. What I will say is Brevin Jordan looks fresh, and y'all know my dislike for Brevin Jordan. I want him never to see the light of day on the field again. Like let's just take care. Let's just make sure he's not there anymore. Um, but in all honesty, he didn't look bad. Now, there was something that I don't remember who it was who said it. It might have been VT from Texans Fan Battle, or it might have been Harley Dugan or Mr. 713. It might have been Ruben. I don't remember who said it, but somebody mentioned that a battle between CJ and Davis Mills, as we get into the quarterbacks here, uh, between them might be harder than you think, mainly because both of these guys are performing at a similar level. And that's kind of what I saw. It was clear and concise that CJ Stroud and Davis Mills are the top two quarterbacks out there at the moment. Davis Mills also is a good practice quarterback. In practice, he's on his P's and Q's. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. Sure, he threw an interception. I think it was yesterday, but that was not him today. He wasn't close to throwing an interception. And CJ almost did throw an interception. It should have been counted as an interception. However, the guy stepped out of bounds. The defender, I think it was Tavier Thomas who caught it in the end. No, it wasn't. It was who's number 25 now? Or he should have caught the ball, but he didn't. He stepped out before he could catch. He bobbled it too much. But the quarterback play is pretty even. I will say on in terms of accuracy, there was I will say both quarterbacks had a bad throw. One was, and I'll start with CJ because he's the rookie. CJ had a throw in the second half of practice, the second half of team drills, where he didn't step up into the pocket in time. He backed up. He was good. He's scanning the field. You could see his head moving around, but he didn't feel his blind side pressure. I don't remember if he was with the ones at that point. I think he was with the twos, but the left tackle got beat. I think it was Jerry Hughes who came around the corner and just tapped his arm as he threw the ball, and it came out a wobbler. And that wobbler was a duck that was asking to be intercepted. In any normal game, that would have been an interception. Unfortunately, the corner couldn't get to the ball in time, or he couldn't hold on to the ball. They did push-ups for that later, by the way. That was the worst throw I saw from CJ today. Every other throw, however, was spot on. I mean, it was hitting people in the hands where only they could get it, in the chest. Like it was where the receiver would put his hands up and the ball would just be there. It was like it was on a rope, magnetized to that hand. Insane accuracy at all levels. That's what CJ has. Mills has the processing. What I saw from Mills is the ability to see things faster. So there was a particular play where the throw wasn't that good, and this was the worst throw of the day, in my opinion, from Mills. There was a bit of a layering that was going on. It was like a double cross. So there was a shallow cross and a deep cross, or a mid cross, I guess. You'd call it a deep cross, but it was more of a mid level 10 to 15 yard throw. The shallow cross was at 5 yards, and Mills layered or attempted to layer the ball at the deep crosser. Unfortunately, though, where he threw the ball was on a frozen rope behind the shallow crosser. And it would have been a beautiful pass had he thrown it a second and a half earlier for the shallow crosser, because he would have been able to get it. But what it ended up happening was, because it was too low and it was in between now the shallow and deep crosser, it just bounced and skipped on the ground and went 15 yards down the field. And it was an ugly throw. But you could tell what he was thinking. These are things that Davis Mills is going to have to clean up in order to win that starting job if he really wants to. But do we really think he's going to win it? We'll talk about that later. Offensive line. This is where a lot of people want to hear. They want to hear, how's Juice Scruggs doing? How's Kenyon Green doing? How's the line gelling? I'm going to be honest with you guys. The defensive line that we have and how they're approaching and how they're attacking our offensive line, Tunsil holds up well. Titus can hold up well, unless they're going up against Will Anderson, or unless they're going up against a blitz. That offensive line, they didn't struggle. They were able to hold up and do very, very well on run blocking. But occasionally in pass blocking, those defensive ends were getting there. A couple of names I really want to highlight. Roy Lopez was putting pressure on that interior offensive line. He's quick, he's big, he's muscular, he's gotten leaner, but he's faster. He's coming off the ball faster. He's not the same Roy Lopez that we saw that struggled all last season. He looks closer to what we saw in his rookie year, where that promise that was there, like where we saw it in him, that was there for him. But we're talking about offensive line here. I'll say the tackles were good. Shaq Mason, fantastic. From what I saw in Kenyon Green, I didn't see anything bad. He's not getting blown off the ball. Obviously, he still needs to work on his pass rush. He still needs to work on his pass blocking, I should say. He still needs to work on that a bit. His run blocking, phenomenal. He's doing fantastic there. He needs to keep getting better at where he is there, but he seems to be getting better, but he still has to make those leaps. He's not a Pro Bowl ready guy yet. He's got to get better. So then let's get to center. For the ones, I'll say this. When I was looking at the offensive line and who was running with the ones, the center was generally Scott Quessenberry. I really wanted to see Juice Scruggs out there with the ones to see if that would help Kenyon as well, because I think Juice brings a level of physicality that Scott Quessenberry doesn't. I think Scott Quessenberry's heart is high and he's got a motor, but Juice has something else. He's got that it factor. He's got that, shall I say, dog in him, especially from what I saw from him at Penn State. Quessenberry wasn't getting destroyed, but he wasn't necessarily making the line better. Juice definitely was doing pretty well, but he's still learning. He was getting beat a couple of times as well on the inside. Offensive line, I would give them a grade of a B- for the day. Defense did do some handling on them today. Quarterback position, I would give them a C today. Nothing was really clicking. You know what? I'll be a little bit better. They also get a B minus. Um, Quarterbacks were accurate except for a couple of throws. Davis Mills was definitely inaccurate on some throws. CJ was definitely a little late in his processing occasionally. I think that was mainly because of what the defense was throwing at him. And you could see every time that would happen, he would immediately either go to Matt Burke or D'Amico, or he'd go and check and he'd kind of file that away, and then he'd go and talk about it when he was done. He'd go and talk with Keenum. He'd go and talk with the defensive coordinator, with somebody to figure out what he could have done differently for that play. You'd see him looking up at the screen, so on and so forth. But the quarterbacks really weren't wowing today, except for that run by CJ, which receivers, I'm going to give them a fat C minus. They were not that great, not that impressive today. They definitely could have been better, but it is what it is. I mean, we were working with the receivers that we got. And running backs, I'm going to give them an A minus. They were the best group on the offense today. Tight ends, I'm going to give them straight up a B. Didn't get to see them that much, but running backs, I believe were the best group of the day. They did the most work, the most heavy lifting, and they seem to be on point. Damian Pierce, Devin Singletary, that's going to be a dangerous backfield. And Tank Dell, we'll get to him also a little later. Let's switch it over. Let's talk about the defense. So, Joey, if he's listening right now, I know he's not going to like this, but there was an interesting little tidbit that happened today when I was watching the ones run. I don't think we're seeing a first team defensive line at all. I think that's still in flux. So I really won't talk too much about them when I'm referring to the ones. The ones on the defense that I'm looking at are corners, or DBs in general, and linebackers. What I saw with the ones was Derek Stingley, Steven Nelson, and that was the base corner package. And then we had three linebackers: Christian Harris, Henry To'oTo'o, and Christian Kirksey. And I'm going to tell you, safeties, by the way, we know Jimmy Ward is one. The other one is Jalen Petrie. But Ward was out today. He did not practice. I'm going to tell you guys this based off of what I saw. Those three linebackers work together very well. To'oTo'o has immediate command of the defense, and it's not in debate. Like immediate command. He is great in that defense. He works very well. He's able to point people out, diagnose stuff, and he's quick to the ball. Christian Harris complements that, especially on the outside. He's got that sideline to sideline speed. We know that. They complement each other. If To'oTo'o misses, Christian Harris can be there real fast. And Kirksey, solid. He surprised me. He was definitely able to diagnose things. He was definitely using veteran moxie to beat stuff and get to his positions. But the linebacker group, generally, they were in position, whether that be for a pass breakup, whether that be to cut off a route underneath, whatever it may be, that linebacker group was good. Corners. I mentioned that occasionally wide receivers would get the step. Steven Nelson got beat by some guy. I don't even know who he was. I think it was number 14. Don't remember his name, but he had Nelson beat badly. And unfortunately, he just didn't come up with the ball. He couldn't catch it. Stingley was beat by Noah Brown. He got catch-up speed. He broke it up later. A lot of people were trying to say it was pass interference. Refs were out there. Incomplete. No flag thrown. Honestly, it looked like a sauce play. It was bang bang. It was too quick to really tell. He gets his hand on Noah Brown and kind of turns him as the ball gets there, and then kind of flicks it out, um, which was a great play, great veteran move by Stingley. Stingley, I'm not going to say he is Sauce Gardner. I'm not going to say he's the best thing since Deion Sanders, but he looked fine out there to me. He looked great, and that that secondary was not giving up anything. What I did notice also was a lot of blitzing. It looked like there was a lot of safety, a lot of linebacker blitzes that were coming out of nowhere. And when I mean coming out of nowhere, I specifically remember with the twos a specific play where Garrett Wallow was on the outside. I believe this was Garrett Wallow. It was kind of hard for me to see. But Garrett Wallow, I think, was the guy who was out there, and he looked like he was kind of on outside contain, playing a third of the field. And then all of a sudden, when the ball is snapped, he is in the backfield. There was nothing that the right tackle could do there. He was just beat. It was just that. And it either causes a throwaway or it's just a blown up play. The defense is clicking. So let's turn to the defensive line. There was a lot of mixing up. I saw Thomas Booker on the outside. I saw him on the inside. I saw Roy Lopez in there with the ones. Again, I'll say that because Roy Lopez was up there to start. I saw him in there. I was like, what the heck is this? That also included Jerry Hughes and John Grenard and Malik Collins. There was no Sheldon Rankins in there. I think he might be on the pup list right now. There was I didn't with the linebackers. I don't think I saw ever with the ones um, Denzel Perryman or any other linebacker run with the ones. That's just not how it went. Interestingly enough, when the twos were out there, when they were kind of rotating people in, the twos, the threes, when those people were rotating in, there wasn't really a change in quality. The defensive line was always doing what they were going to do. And that's what I'm most excited about for this season. A deep defensive line that can rotate players in and you don't see a drop in quality. That's what we're expecting from this defense that um D'Amico brought or D'Amico is bringing to this team. Um Kind of going back on to what I was talking about with the defensive line versus the offensive line. Uh, the defensive line, I would say, pretty much won the day. Um, but I think this is normal, right? The offense is still getting their installs, and the defense is pretty much just go get the quarterback, right? There were a lot of plays where Will Anderson or Jerry Hughes um, or whoever was on the outside was just getting to the backfield. Um, and the running backs would make a good move. They'd get out of there and they would make a cut and get upfield. The offense is clicking enough to where the running backs can shine, which is why I gave them that A minus. But that defensive line, they are blowing it up often, early and often. And it's good to watch. I'm happy to see a defensive line that seems like they're getting after the quarterback and that no matter the situation, whether it be run or pass, they're there to stop it. There was a lot of plays I saw where Singletary or Pierce, they'd be trying to run through a gap and you'd see Harris there, or you'd see Tuotua there, or you would see somebody, Petrie, somebody, it would be 3 to 4 yards at the most that they'd be getting, right? They were getting hit directly after getting through the defensive line. So maybe 1, maybe 2 yards. They were getting hit there in the backfield at the line of scrimmage. Of course, they keep running because they're not in pads, but that defense is looking much better. So, what do I give overall looks to the defense? DBs or corners in general, I'm going to give them a solid A. And the DBs were just great. They're on lockdown. Throws are not easy to come by. If you mess up, it's a pick, it's a batted pass. The offense is not, I mean, they're completing passes. Don't get it twisted. But it is not a lot of deep over the middle stuff. This is check downs, 5 to 7 yards down the field, in the middle of the field at linebacker level. And then it's an immediate tackle. It's good play by the defense. Linebackers, I'm going to give them a B at the moment. I like what I'm seeing right now from them, but I want to see more. I would like to see Perryman in there with Tuo and To'o and or Tuo, how you say his name, and Christian Harris. I would like to see that. I would like to see the rotation of different people kind of there, just to see what's the best bet. But right now, linebackers are playing fine. I think I said B plus for that. And then lastly, defensive line. Got to give them a solid B plus to B to B plus, somewhere in there. I think they're coming along fine. It seems that they're able to disrupt. Even with Laramie Tunsil and Titus Howard there, it doesn't matter who's there. They're able to disrupt. They don't win all the time against those two, but there's enough disruption there that it's definitely ugly. Now, I don't have it on here, but let's talk a bit about special teams. I know there's been discussions kind of around about people talking about things like why there's no punter in camp for competition against Cam Johnston. Y'all, Cam Johnston was dropping 60-yard punt bombs today. Like, it was insane how far he was punting that ball. Cam Johnston, we keep that man. Keep football Bill Burr. Like, just keep him. He's great at the moment. Kaimi, what's there to say? Kaimi's been the best kicker the Texans have had ever. What are we going to bring in? Who are we going to bring in? There's nobody we can really bring in that can challenge him. Not many kickers in the league are hitting 62-yard field goals on the regular basis or at all. Kaimi's done that. So I don't think there's anybody who you really could bring in that could challenge him. Maybe somebody that's more accurate. If you want to go meme it up and go all out, maybe you could bring in somebody like Destroying off of YouTube, who is trying to get back in NFL shape. And I would love to see it, but I don't think he beats out Kaimi. At least not yet. Kaimi's been doing this for a while. But the real thing that was awesome was Tank Dell and Desmond King. Desmond King and Tank Dell in punt returns, that could be dangerous. Like, dangerous with a capital D. Tank Dell caught a ball and literally juked the entire stadium. I thought on the sidelines that he was surely tackled. And then he did some type of wizarding black magic stutter step. And somehow 3 dudes missed him. And he was up the sideline. And then cut inside and he beat another dude. And then cut back outside and beat another dude before it was clear that somebody was tackling him. Tank Dell will be a nightmare. Not just in the punt and kick return game, but if he's going to translate that onto route running, which we already know he's a technical route runner, he was getting open. Everybody knew where the ball was going on a couple of occasions where it was going to Tank Dell. They couldn't get there. The dude is just shifty. It's hard to get him. He's too shifty. He's too quick. He's too good with his footwork. He's got excellent balance, excellent field awareness. Tank Dell might be the shadow option, the dark horse option for an offensive rookie of the year. I know CJ Stroud, because he's the one feeding him the ball, would probably win it first if he wins it, but Honestly, Tank Dell, man's playing a different game. He's doing great stuff. All right. Let's jump into my thoughts and kind of what I saw, and who I think the starters would be just based off of what I saw today. I'm not, don't hold me to this. I am not Nostradamus. I'm not a guy who thinks that this is all going to be correct, but just kind of based off of what I saw today in terms of quality. Let's start with quarterback. Quarterback, although in practice it's a toss up at the moment, the number one QB1 should be CJ Stroud. CJ has a moxie about him, has an ability about him, and leadership about him that it's clear. Like, players are talking about it. You could see the way they rally around him, see the way they look to protect him, see the way they're trying to help him out and get open, how they're talking to him about what they want to do, what makes it easier for him. He should be QB1. Um, Offensive line, I expect obviously the tackles to be Titus and Tunsil. That's not a question. That's our starting tackles right there. Shaq Mason and Kenyon Green should be the starting guards that we have out there. Center, at the moment, I know Scott Quessenberry was out there, but I have a feeling that as camp goes on, Juice Scruggs wins it, takes over. That should be your day one starter. He's been trying to also get a lot of work with CJ, especially today. He was, after practice, they were kind of doing some snaps together. He was getting used to that. I think that's prepping to be your starting center, starting quarterback bit right there. Starting running back. This is going to be a tandem, obviously. The person who goes out there first is going to be Damian Pierce. He's your bruiser. But you could send out Devin Singletary out there, and it doesn't matter. They both can catch passes, both can knife through, both can break tackles. It doesn't matter. But though I think Damian Pierce will be your starting running back. Wide receivers, I think that's going to be Robert Woods at wide receiver 1, Nico, and Tank. I think that'll be your 3 starters. I did see Mechie out there today, but Mechie did not practice. Like, he wasn't doing nothing. He also kind of looks like he's walking with a bit of a limp, so maybe he has a hamstring issue. I know Nick Casario kind of talked about that Wednesday, I believe, but I don't think he's playing anytime soon. At least I don't think he's practicing this week. I think he might start in next week. Lighter, he might play a bit in the first preseason game, maybe the second. But I think they're going to take it real slow. I wouldn't expect Mechie quickly. Again, that's just a hypothesis. Tight end Dalton Schultz. I think that's the obvious one. I think he's tight end 1 off the bat. And what is that? 5, 1, 7, 3, missing 1. We'll go with starting fullback, I guess. That one's kind of up in the air. I liked what I saw out of both fullbacks today. I think that's a good battle. I don't think there's an edge to it, actually. And you know what? We'll just go with the second tight end. We'll just do that 2 tight end set. Teagan wasn't out there today. Mason Shrek looked okay. Honestly, Brevin was the second best looking tight end out there today. So if we had to go based off of today, I think it would be Brevin at tight end 2. But honestly, I think that he gets quickly overtaken by Teagan. Teagan, you guys know what I call him. I call Teagan Baby Gronk. I think he runs like Gronk. I think he looks like Gronk. I think he can catch like Gronk. He can block like him. I think Teagan should be your tight end 2. So I think that's the offense. On defense, let's start with the secondary. I think it's going to stay pretty much the same. Your base set in 4-3, it's going to be your starting corners will be and this is no in no particular order. It's going to be Steven Nelson and Derek Stingley. That's your two corners, Jimmy Ward and Jalen Petrie. We all know that that's the case. That secondary will be fine. Starting linebackers, I do think Christian Harris wins out the job. I would like to see 2020 out there. And based off today and kind of based off of how they had him, I think he might win that job. He's played very well. So Henry 2020, I think he might be the starter. And honestly, with how all three of them were playing, I think Kirksey is your other outside linebacker. And I think that's your three starting linebackers. Defensive line, Will Anderson. I don't know if they're going to go for youth or not. If they go for youth, I would say expect John Grenard to be your other side with Will Anderson. And then they rotate John Grenard and Jerry Hughes in and out. Interior, it was Roy Lopez and Malik Collins today, but it should be Sheldon Rankins and Malik Collins. That shouldn't be a question. Like that should be your starting defensive group. Lastly, special teams. We know Kyrie Fairbairn's the kicker. We know Cam Johnson's the punter. And we know John Weeks is the long snapper. But for punt and kick returns, I think it's just depends on which one you want out there, Derek King or Tank Dell. And you might just have them both. I think they'll both be. I think you'll probably have for kick returns Tank Dell as your starting kick returner, and your punt returner will probably be Desmond King. I said Derek King. Desmond King. Excuse me on that. But yeah, I think King is your punt returner and Tank Dell is your kick returner. All right. So let's chat. I haven't got to talk with you guys in a while. It's been a minute. You guys know what I do. I am a film review guy. And I learned that from Jordan, but I like to do it live because I'd like for you guys to see what I see, to be able to diagnose how I diagnose when I'm watching film. I can do it live in a game. I can do it live now watching a game, right? So I can be at a game and diagnose a play as it's breaking down. I thank Jordan for that. If you don't know who Jordan is, that is your Texans thoughts. He taught me a lot there. He taught me a lot. Brett Coleman taught me a lot as well. I learned a lot from just sitting down and watching it and figuring out what was going on. And just starting to understand the game more. So let's chat. I see that there's somebody at least watching. So let me know what you guys want to talk about. If there's any questions, other questions you guys have based off of what I've said, kind of a quick rundown of what I said. Defense again won the day, in my opinion. Secondary is locked down. They are insanely, at least with us, right? We have to wait till we see them in real games. But they were definitely locked down. They were not letting anything go. Linebackers were doing very well as well. The run game seems to be working fine, but it doesn't look like our defense is going to be the wet sieve or the wet paper towel that was allowing runs to happen in the past. Heck yeah, dude, let's throw that up. Offensive line seems to be working fine. However, our defensive line seems to be better. And I think actually I need to talk a little bit about this as well. There needs to be some credit given to Nick Caserio on what he has done for the team. There is no doubt that the last 2 years that we faced, we were one of the worst put together teams in the NFL. Like, that's just fact. Our rosters were not that good. We had a lot of dead cap. We had a lot of craziness going on. And in that, still, Nick Caserio has managed to raise our floor year after year. And that's something that should be applauded. Now, he didn't necessarily have the opportunity to raise our ceiling until last year. That was his first year able to really do anything because that's when he had picks to do it. But he's raised our floor. And now he's starting the process of raising our ceiling. I think that needs to be talked about a bit more because you can see it. You're starting to see a competent football team come together, string together plays, make good observations on the field, make good diagnosing good reads, get things going correctly, and it's working. It looks good. So, with all that being said, if you guys have any comments, questions, concerns, thoughts, anything you want to throw out there at me, anything you want me to kind of replay, or anything you even want me to look at in the first preseason game, or the second preseason game, which I will be there for, and I won't diagnose that, or I won't even do any film study on that until after I get back, because that happens on my birthday. So just so you know. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, any thoughts, throw them my way. And let's have some discussion. If not, as always, you guys know that I'm here for you. If you guys have anything you want me to pray for, you can always put it in the chat. Uh, Definitely do that for me, or go ahead and uh, go ahead and email me, text me, DM me, wherever. Right? Look, it's the queen, y'all. This is my wife. The queen is in the building. That's all you got to know. Like I said, if you guys have anything you want to pray for, anything you just need, anything at all, throw it my way. If you just need somebody to talk to, throw it my way. I'm here to talk. I'm here to help you. And let's be friends. And of course, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. All the info for everybody who's ever been on the show with me is below in the description, as well as a link to follow me on the podcast. However you want to follow it. If you want to follow it on Apple, Google, or Spotify, on Spotify, that has the video. So if you want to see the tape I'm looking at and not just listen to what I'm saying, you got to watch it on Spotify. Otherwise, if you just want to hear what I'm saying and kind of hear my breakdown of the plays and hear what we're saying, you can listen to that on Apple or Google. Your choice. And or Spotify, because Spotify has an audio only option as well. All right. Well, I don't see any questions in the chat. I'm not seeing anything crazy going on. If there is nothing else, then you guys know what time to go. Time to you know how it is. It's been a dark world out, right? Things have been crazy. Things have been insane. Things have been dark and devastating. But you know what we do here on the Moderate Texan podcast. We look through the darkness. We find just a little bit of light. And we bring you right back to the middle. I'm Jay. I am the Moderate Texan. It has been a blast. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll catch you next time. H-Town, stand up. Love you.